This is just a quick video to show you how to fit this into one of these. So you can do this. We recommend this modification be used for off-road use only. If intended for an on-road vehicle, it is the responsibility of the individual to confirm the legalities within their transport authority in their local state or territory. We also recommend that all work is carried out by a qualified mechanic and that all bolts are regularly tightened to the factory torque specifications. This is Dave from Subaru Auto. Today we're going through how to fit the Torq Locker R160 5-bolt rear diff center into a Subaru Brumby Brat L-Series or Loyale rear diff. These have a male stub axles instead of the female, which is the Torq Locker is designed for. But this is a 3.7, which is the most common one of the old school diffs. The ratio doesn't matter, use the same ring gear. You'll need to follow the dismantling process as per the installation manual that comes with the Torq Locker. The main difference being these stub axles need to come out. Now these have a Torq bolt way down in there. You will need an E10 1/4" long neck socket to be able to get those out through there, and then you can take that bolt all the way out. So we have a small Torq impact driver that we've put our E10 Torq socket on. We've got this bolt, that Torq socket bolt out, I wanted to show you. So that's the Torq end, and that's just holding in that whole stub axle. You need to do that on both sides in order to dismantle it and the center to come out. Once the side and rear casing's out, you should be able to maneuver the gears out from the middle. It can take a bit of a wiggle sometimes. And put that to the side, ready to dismantle that as per the steps in your Torq Locker manual. So I'm just working on pulling the spider gears out now. I just wanted to point out, so I've removed the ring gear and the ring gear bolts. Now this little pin here can be tricky to spot. Now it actually goes through there, through that hole there. Now if you don't take that pin out, you can't punch that center pin out, and then you can't get the spider gears out, so don't forget to take that little pin out. I've got the ring gear out, I've got the center shaft out. The spider gears are still sitting in here, but if you see now, if I just rotate those, they'll pretty much just fall out. That was falling out the bottom. Now we don't need these, they can get discarded. We do need part of these. So if we get these slide out of the bearings, like so. There's two of those. Like so. Now we need that ring in there. That's got the thread in it, and that's the thread that that bolt goes into when we bolt that in. So it's really important. Now that's just pressed in. So if we can put that in a vise, so this way up, hammer down there or press down on that, that actual ring will come out, and they're the rings that we need to make sure we put into these Torq Locker centers so that we can use our male stub axles. One thing that you have to remember to do before assembly is we need to get these circlips out of these two ends of the Torq Locker. These circlips are to lock the CV joints in. Now because we're using stub axles, that will end up being bolted in again. We need to take those out. They do actually get in the way, so pry both those out and discard those. Okay, so I've pressed these rings out now. We need to keep both of those. Make sure that you have taken the shims off these. Just placed them in there for now so I don't forget. There's the little shims there. It is covered in the manual. So now this one and this one, the shims in there, the rings off there, and there. These can be thrown out now. We're just about to start assembling it all together. Now these are the rings that we took out the spider gears. So we're going to be able to press one of these on the bench. The other one we can't put together because otherwise it won't actually fit all inside there. They actually hit each other. So this one is going to end up floating in when we assemble it, and then we'll use the stub axle bolts to actually press that together inside the center. So this is the one I pressed in on the bench. Now I've got the shim in place and that can go in. Now the other one, to make this easier, it might be a good idea on the bench to press this in and out a whole bunch of times to free it up a bit. It is a very tight fit and you're going to be relying on the bolt through the stub to pull that in and press it in, and it's really important that that does end up flush. So to free that up, to make it easy to press in, is probably a good idea. Okay, now for the tricky part. Put the shim in first, put the Torq Locker part in that we've pressed the thread into already, put that in next. Put the bottom piece in, teeth at the back, it's flat on either side to help you slide it in. Slide that in like so. Top piece, I've already got the shim sitting on here. Get that in. Slide that upwards, hold that all the way up, holding it up with my back finger. Get the other half ready. Teeth at the front, because they're going to slide into there. It's flat on either side to fit in. Now our blind threaded piece there, you have to hold that inside. You can't sit it in there, it won't fit. You have to hold it on the inside while you slide it in. Slide it in, let that fall in. It's all locked in. Now we can use our fingers to maneuver that centerpiece. You can grab it from either side, line it up as like so. Get one of your stub ends, slide that in here. Get one of your bolts, put it in, do that up tight. That'll press it all together. You have to do it up pretty tight to make it all lock up. Then unbolt it and take it out. Once that's done, you can put all those pins and things back through as per the instruction manual. Now I like to have both the stub axles done up tight and in before I put these pins in. Main reason to make sure you've done them up tight enough to pull that one you had to pull into place. If you haven't done it up tight enough, that pin actually won't go in because it'll hit it. So I'm confident I've done it up tight enough, so I'm going to go ahead now, install those pins as per the instructions, put that pin back in, that locks that in. Then I'll take these ends off so I can fit it into the diff. Now we're just about ready to refit this centre. Stub axles are out, pins are all in. Now what I do keep forgetting to mention is the springs have to go in for the Torq Locker. Now that's covered in the Torq Locker manual, but we have got a spring on each side that needs to go in, one on there, one on the opposite side. Once we've got the ring gear on, we can start assembly. We're all ready to go to fit the diff center back in now. We've got the springs in place, the ring gear on, we've got all our pins and everything in place. We're not all seized up, it's all good. Now one thing we haven't done is we haven't used any assembly grease for the purposes of this video, but it's a good idea to stop some initial wear when you first drive it. We've got our locking rear diff center sitting in place, ready to be reassembled. You just might want to change some of the seals on either ends, the O-rings, and there's a gasket on here that you might want to renew while putting it back together. A couple of last things before we put the cover back on is it's normal to have some play now in these stubs. It's also a very good idea to rotate the diff a couple of times to make sure there's nothing catching, and also make sure that both these stubs are turning in the same direction and equally. So this one's ready for the cover to go back on, some paint, and we'll take it out for some testing. for some paint.